Ladies and gentlemen, we're expecting some moderate turbulence.
Please remain seated and enjoy the show. Hello,
And welcome to
Moderate Turbulence.
I'm Jeremie.
I'm Adele.
Hello, Adele.
Hi, Jeremie.
How's everything?
It's good. I've been off for a week.
Oh, nice. nice. We haven't even gotten into highs and lows, but okay. How's Roxy?
She's good. She's finally doing better. I mean, she's been doing better for a few days now, but it's never fun when your little doggy is not doing well and pooping everywhere.
Well, yes. No, it's a poopy situation. Anyways, moving on to more positive things. It's beautiful. Weather here in Calgary is beautiful. We just went out for a walk with Roxy and got some ice cream and stuff. I'm a little bit under the weather, so I'm just kind of recovering right now. But apart from that, things are good. How are you?
You're good. Yep.
You're good as well. Excellent. Do you want to get into it or any more banter?
Yeah, I mean, we can get into highs and lows, but also disclaimer, I've been off for a week, you've been off for a few days, so we haven't flown since our last episode, so nothing really new in that department. But again, as much as we like our jobs, it's really nice. That's the perks of our schedules, is to be able to have this week off that I didn't have anything planned. It's not because I'm on vacation or I wanted this time off specifically. It just happens that with my schedule this month, I had a week off between two of my pairings. So, we had our little getaway, then just had the weekend here, enjoying the beautiful weather, lots of time to clean and stuff. So, I cleaned up the yard because there's no more snow outside.
Yep.
That's really
Snow's
nice.
all melted. Well, it was like 15-ish degrees for the last couple days. Although, funny enough, we went for dinner at a friend's place that's like less than 10-minute drive away. And when we got back in the evening, it hadn't snowed where they are, but it snowed at our place. So there was snow on the lawn still. But now that's all cleared up. So I'm still expecting at least one more snowfall before we call it quits for winter. But that's Calgary weather for you. We're used to it by now.
Yeah, and I mean, right now, mid-April, 15 degrees outside, no more snow on the ground. It's nice. And we've been seeing a lot of patios of restaurants, cafes, bars open with people sitting outside and enjoying a beverage or a meal. So that's also been really cool to see. Just
Absolutely.
like the weather is finally changing. And even if it's only 15 degrees here, to us, it's like, okay, that feels nice. The sun is always shining. It's nice enough weather to just sit outside and not have to be like briskly moving.
Yeah. Or even last night for dinner, we barbecued. So, that's one of the advantages of the nice weather.
I mean, let's be honest, you barbecue in any weather.
It's true. But it's nicer when it's nice out.
Yeah. Any highs and lows that you want to talk about? Or?
Just for me, my low would be just not feeling 100%. And you gave me the best advice because I was kind of mulling it over whether or not I wanted to go to work or call in sick. And you said to me, listen to your body. And my body was like, I was drained. It was the weirdest thing. I couldn't fully wake up on Friday. I was just, my whole body was shut down. It was kind of the same thing today as well. So it was just a shorter walk with the Palm today. But other than that, I haven't been flying, so no highs yet. That's about it.
Yeah. And then it's like we've discussed as well, like the two of us, if we are sick or feeling a little unwell, it's not like we're just going, in for a shift and coming home at the end of the night. Like you're gone for almost 3 days. Like you're flying, you're going cross borders, you're going to be on your feet for 10 hours. So it's not like a small feat. It's either you're feeling 100%, or if you're feeling a little under the weather, you get your migraines a lot, you have congestion, whatever it is, it's a very good idea for us to not go into work. Not that we're advocating calling in sick all the time. We're just saying obviously it's our different job. So calling in sick, I don't know if you can hear that, but Roxy's snoring on me. Sorry. It's like a different way to look about, am I too sick to work? If we're feeling a little unwell, it's just best to to stay home away from crowds of people in airports and airplanes. I mean, we're serving food on board,
Yeah.
so not great if we're sick, if we're sniffling, coughing, sneezing into their food.
Well, yeah.
Not great. Or
Well, anything that has to do with your ears, like if you're congested, it can be really bad. And I know people who have lost part of their hearing because their eardrum burst because they flew while they were under the weather and had a cold or whatnot. So not a fun experience.
And you never know for sure, right, how bad it's going to be. You're like, oh, I just have a little bit of the sniffles, I should be okay. But then everything is a little bit different when you get at 35,000 feet in the air. So, and it's not worth busting your eardrum because then you're really going to be off work for a while.
Yeah.
So are you going to miss 3 days or are you going to miss a few weeks?
True.
Kind of also what you have to weigh in, because if you get sicker or if you're like also flying with an injury, let's say, and then you make it worse, then you're not off for 3 days or 4 days. You're off for several weeks
or months. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not a nice experience.
So all that to say that as a bonus, I got to spend a few more days with Jeremie.
All right. So getting into the meat of this episode, we finally watched the MH370 sort of docu-series that was on Netflix. So we watched all 3 episodes. Paused it a few times, had a couple little rants in there, had a few little meltdowns because I was like, what are they talking about? But we're going to sort of go over what we liked, what we didn't like, and critique a few different elements. Sound good?
Yeah.
So first of all, it is 3 episodes. Each episode lasts about 90 minutes, so an hour and a half. And they're broken up into 3 kind of different theories. And they touch on a whole bunch of different things, but the title of each episode. So the first one is The Pilot. And so it's dealing with potentially what happened if one of the pilots was responsible for MH370 disappearing. And so, they go over a lot of different theories. Employees of the airline were all like, no, he's one of the best captains, because they're talking mainly about the captain. He's one of the best captains in the company. Everyone loved working with him. But he also had like a flight simulator at home. And they're like, but on his flight simulator, within a month of MH370 happening, he like plotted a flight path that left from Kuala Lumpur and then terminated in the Indian Ocean, Southern Indian Ocean somewhere. Everyone's like, ooh, like that's clearly evidence that he's the one who did it. But then as they looked further into it, he didn't actually fly a flight path that went all the way there. Just at one point in his flight, he clicked and dragged the plane so that it was in the Southern Indian Ocean. So very loose evidence for that one.
Yeah, I mean, overall, watching the docu-series, you don't learn anything new. If you've looked into this incident before, like we've done a previous episode on MH370. So you don't learn anything new. You kind of just get the information retold to you by different people, by different journalists, by different aviation experts. And then I think the biggest thing, though, for me watching it, especially the first episode, the first few, like half an hour at least of the episode, is the loved ones of the passengers of MH370 telling the audience, or telling the people who's watching about their family, their friends, their mother, their husband, their spouse, whoever was on the plane that they lost. And so I think one of the first people who speaks is a flight attendant for Malaysian Airlines who lost her husband, who was one of the crew members on that flight.
Yeah.
And so they were both flight attendants for the airline, and they would bid opposite schedules because they had a kid. They had a young child. And so one of them would be able to stay home with the kid, and then so one would fly and one would be home. So that would hit home.
Oh yeah.
Because that's what we do. We bid opposites for our animals, and we're both flight attendants for the same airline. So it's really, really emotional watching that. It's really gut wrenching. It's so sad, and especially since they still don't know what happened. Like the plane just literally disappeared. That's what the docuseries is called, the plane that disappeared.
Yep.
And you're just,
Yeah. Well, that was one of the things I liked about it, is that, for most of us, it's this big mystery. It's been over 9 years now. We just passed the 9-year mark of when it disappeared. And yeah, for most of us, it's like, wow, this 777 that disappeared. But it brought that realism of these are the families, these are the people that lost loved ones. And it's not just that, oh, a plane crashed. It's that they don't know where it crashed. They don't know where it ended up. They don't know, like, it's hard to describe. Like, there's all these different theories and like, oh, yes, we can finally put it to rest. We can't put it to rest because that was one of the things the docuseries did. It just asked more questions. There were no answers. Which was a little frustrating, but at the same time, it's like you start seeing these new theories, and we're going to get into one or two of them that really kind of ticked me off. But I think they really did a good job of having the family members, having them sort of tell their stories, giving them a voice, and being like, this whole ordeal isn't over because we haven't found what happened. We don't have an answer yet. So I like that they're keeping it alive with the family members. So now the second episode was called, it was basically like the hijack. So they're basing it on a theory of the aircraft being hijacked, which again is another theory. Some of the stories that came up with this theory were, oh, it's Russian spies that were on board and they created a distraction. And then someone snuck down into the avionics bay where this is the part that got me, where they plugged their laptop into a random USB slot that was there, were able to take control of the aircraft, shut off certain systems, and then you feel the aircraft banking to the left because he was steering the aircraft from the avionics bay on his laptop.
Oh, and they also cut off the oxygen supply to the flight deck, so the pilots lost consciousness.
Yeah.
And this guy is completely okay in the avionics bay with, I don't know, magic powers.
Or portable, maybe had a portable oxygen bottle or something like that. They were sort of touching on a few things. Now, a couple different things. So they were claiming, now I'm not sure how Malaysian Airlines does it, but they were claiming that there's passenger oxygen masks. So if the cabin depressurizes, and this is how it works on a real aircraft, if the cabin pressure reaches an altitude of about 14,000 feet, the masks will automatically deploy. That's just the way it is. It's a safeguard. Or they can be dropped manually from the flight deck. Now, there's two different types of oxygen systems, two main different types of oxygen systems found on passenger aircraft. You can have generator-based or you can have gaseous-based. Now, generator, you'll have one little generator up above the seat, and it's going to supply oxygen to 3 or 4 masks, depending. And so when you pull one mask, it starts the generator, boom, you get oxygen, lasts somewhere from 12 to 14 minutes. There's also a system called gaseous. Now, gaseous basically is using one main oxygen supply, and whoever pulls a mask down, they start taking oxygen from that system. Now, on the 777 that was being used by Malaysian Airlines, they were kind of insinuating that it's generator-based. I'm not 100% sure how Malaysian does it, but I know some other airlines use gaseous-based systems. So it's not, oh, just pull your mask and boom, you've got oxygen for 12 to 14 minutes. Again, that's a very general way of explaining it all, but it felt like they were talking like how it's one system when it might be a different one, and it wouldn't really run consistent with their story. Now, hooking up your laptop to some random USB port in the avionics bay, that's absurd. It reminds me of an episode of the wonderful TV series Chuck, which maybe, if possible, I'll throw just a little clip in here of that, because basically the CIA takes control of a commercial airliner remotely, randomly, and it kind of felt like that.
You're going to take control of that plane that's a 747.
I hope you're a quick learner, Captain Walker. Call Chuck.
Now, the other thing is the avionics bay, they're like this unlocked hatch that's located somewhere between the business class cabin and the flight deck, blah, blah, blah. Yes, every aircraft has a hatch to get to the avionics bay. It's not just simply, oh, look, there's a hatch, I'm going to open it up. It's usually under a carpet. Sometimes the carpet is actually like right over top of it, so you can't just access it. And also, most modern, anything that's built within the last 10, 15 years, aircraft, they have cameras. So if you're trying to get into some random cubby hole in the ground, we're going to see it on the camera, first of all, and then we're going to know, oh, something's up, and probably, oh, I don't know, radio ahead and say somebody's trying to get to the avionics bay, or make a call into the back of the aircraft and say, hey, something bad is going on. So you don't just slip into the avionics bay. Like,
Yeah, watching that episode and watching that theory being explained on TV, that was Jeremie's reaction as we were watching. Jeremie was just like cringing, groaning, exasperated sighs. Yeah, it was just so far-fetched, but the way they just kind of went on and fully explained every detail of this theory was just like, wait, do they actually think that's what happened? Are they going to just say that's the main theory? Like, it was just so far-fetched because we know how everything, not everything, but we know a lot about, obviously, aviation and planes and the 777. We know we fly the 777. So it's just like, what?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
They
Not
made
really.
they made certain unrealistic things seem very plausible. And it's like, no,
Of course,
that's not.
of course the spy could do that.
Yeah. Yeah. Why not?
No problem.
Yeah. Just create a little diversion and slip into the avionics bay.
Like, it's like the lavatory, like as easily to get into as the lavatory. I mean, let's be honest, some passengers don't know how to get into a lavatory
Or get out.
but they made it seem that easy.
Yeah.
So yeah, it would be completely not a thing. So that was an interesting, and it was an aviation journalist who came up with this theory. I don't remember his name, but like one of the main people in this docu-series who's followed this case
From day
closely.
one. Yeah.
He's one of the main people who have come up with this avionics bay Russian spy controlling the aircraft theory. So yeah, and he went on a lot of talk shows too and interviews and stuff.
Well, he was part of a previous group that sort of formed of aviation experts, engineers, people who worked on the 777, pilots. He was part of a group that was sort of, conducting their own little investigation. But then he went off on his own little tangent when it came to this whole Russian spy theory. And even some of the people that were from that original group were like, that's a little far-fetched. We don't really support that theory. So that was a lot of episode number 2, which was dealing with a potential hijacking. Now, episode 3, I believe they called The Intercept, where there was another theory of they actually had American AWACS aircraft in the area that apparently tracked the plane and knew all about it. And so this theory was based on the Americans taking down MH370, which again doesn't really make sense to me, and AWACS aircraft, which are basically aircraft flying around with a radar on top of it.
Yeah,
so they
put a picture here.
Yes, I'll put a picture of an AWACS aircraft up here, and they are not usually for military use, forceful military use. They're not usually armed to the teeth, but apparently in this one, they surrounded MH370, jammed all of its signals, and then took it down. I'm like,
with a missile.
With a missile, yeah. And now, again, AWACS aircraft I'm not a super military geek nerd or anything, but AWACS, from my understanding, don't usually carry ammunition. Next up is, I've done a lot of flights overseas. I've done a lot of flights in busy areas, and I've seen a lot of other airplanes crossing our path, whether I'm flying over the Atlantic and it's like, oh, there's another aircraft that's going faster than us. Oh, there's an aircraft coming this way. The planes aren't just, the skies aren't just clear, and it's just one aircraft flying around. So if you're trying to jam a signal, you would probably end up interfering with signals of other aircraft that are in the area. Even in this case, there was another plane that left about 30 minutes before MH370 that was like in contact with them up until a certain point. So I don't feel like you can target and jam that plane over there as opposed to any aircraft that are sort of in the area. So that was another sort of far-fetched idea.
Yeah. So all these things, a lot of these researchers, journalists, a lot of different people. This is a crazy story, and it's still so sad that they don't know what happened, and the poor families that have to deal with this and are still questioning, because I mean, we still don't know. So are they on an island somewhere, like Lost?
Yeah.
Like the TV show Lost?
Lost, yeah.
I mean, that's probably a theory that people have thought of too, because there's still so many questions and no answers. And a lot of the docu-series touched on the debris that has been found.
Yeah.
So the main piece of debris, which is from the flaperon,
That they call it the flaperon, which is a part of the wing. Yeah.
that was found off the coast of Reunion Island.
Yeah.
So 777 piece, however, they've, researched it, and there's only one serial number out of the many that were found on.
Yeah, they said there was 11 or 12 numbers that they found on it, and only one matched to something that they had in a catalog back at the maintenance base or something for Malaysian Airlines.
Yeah, and then something else that was removed from that piece that would never be removed usually unless the aircraft was out of commission.
Yeah, I think they called it like an identification plate. And so it's a piece they said it's either riveted on or like using some crazy adhesive to keep it on. And it's supposed to stay on no matter what, especially during some sort of aircraft incident. The only time that plate is removed is when the aircraft is being decommissioned, like you said. And that was not found. So it was almost like, oh, we found these pieces. They're definitely from a 777. So it must be MH370. And
because there's no other 777 that crashed here. So here you go. Here's a part.
Yeah.
So it's just that gets my conspiracy theory senses tingling, because I'm like the way everything is just a conspiracy theory. Which conspiracy theory is the most plausible? But this one is just, is it MH370 or is it not?
Was it planted? That's sort of like, they were asking questions. They were loosely insinuating that this could have been planted. There's no guarantee that it 100% came from MH370. And then the other sort of fishy part, and it's all based on the narrative of how they're telling the story, is after that piece was found, there was this one guy who said, I want to go and see if I can find other pieces. And this one guy was the main culprit who found most of the other pieces.
Yeah, but he was told by a group of them were searching, and he was told, if you go to this place in Madagascar.
No, it was between Madagascar and the mainland of Africa. Yeah.
You're going to find debris.
Yeah.
And so he went, and within a couple hours of being on that beach.
They said within 20 minutes he found his first piece of wreckage.
Yeah, which is great. And then, he just kept finding some.
And
then so he had a big pile of different pieces of aircraft.
But nobody else was finding it. It was all from this one guy, and all in these random beaches with no houses or nothing around. So it's kind of like, how do you know he found it there? They were, again, insinuating. They didn't actually come out and say it, but they were like, how do you know he didn't bring it there and be like, oh, look, I found another piece. So, and then again, more questions, because at the 1 year anniversary of MH370 going missing, everyone was kind of like, it's been a year and we have no answers. And then within 2 months, that's when they're like, oh, look, we started to find pieces. So it's like, were they giving answers? These are all the questions that they keep raising. And it was pretty well done. But at the very end, I think I was frustrated. Because we want answers. Let's be honest. Where did it end up? There was theories saying, no, it didn't fly south. It flew north to Russia. Then there was another theory where someone said, I was looking at the satellite images and I definitely saw wreckage of a 777 in the South China Sea. And that was never really fully investigated. So there's so many different theories. And then I sort of think back to Air France 447, was it? That was going from Brazil back to France. And it crashed in the Atlantic Ocean. I know it's not as vast as the Indian or the Pacific Ocean, but it's still a large body of water, and they found it within hours.
I mean, also, talking to Caitlin about, friend of the podcast, she's been on before, but talking about it, she's like, well, she brought up the same Air France Rio to Paris flight that crashed, and they found the plane. But then they probably were able to send out the Mayday call. They knew exactly where that plane was. They didn't lose communication. So it's still an ocean. It's still an aircraft in the ocean. So kind of like a needle in a haystack, but they were able to pinpoint the location. Within hours, rescue teams were on site because of the distress signals that they received from the aircraft. In comparison, MH370 just disappeared. Like they didn't have any more radar tracking. So they didn't really know. Like aircrafts don't just like shut off and then just plummet straight down. They don't just fall out of the sky. That's not how it works. So would they have veered off course slightly and then still be in the South China Sea, or did they completely change course and did a U-turn and then end up in the Indian Ocean? You know, it's all like literally so much area to search, and they did search so much area, but they never really knew too much. And I don't think they knew about the possible veering off course until several months later or a while later. So they didn't search that immediately.
Yeah, it wasn't immediate. It was fairly soon on, but it wasn't immediate where they're like, oh yeah, South Indian Ocean. It was after they got the data from Inmarsat. It was a satellite company that said, oh, well, we were receiving pings from the aircraft, and based on where the satellite was, we can pinpoint how far the aircraft was from the satellite, but we can't tell you exactly where it was. So we can just give you a circle of how far it was. So it's, again, more questions. How accurate is that data? We don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, you know, coming back to the data, people were always questioning the data in the Netflix special, asking, you know, did someone plant the data? Did someone, rewrite it? Did someone just...
Was it tampered with?
Yeah, all this stuff. And then, you know, one of the experts says, well, data is data. You can't change the data. The data is there. And so it's just like you have this pretty much just back and forth constantly. This theory, no, that's not possible. Okay, what about this one? No, not really. All right, what about this one? Yeah, no. So it's still just essentially the plane disappeared 9 years ago. We still don't know anything.
We don't know what happened. We don't know where it is. There's still just more questions.
Yeah. So who knows if we will get any questions?
Answers.
Yep. That we still get lots of questions.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. So, I mean,
let us know what you think. Do you have any theories? Do you think that it was the pilot? Do you think that it was shot down somewhere? Do you think Russian spies were involved? Let us know. Let us know in the comments on Instagram, on Twitter, and all that fun stuff.
And as always, if you're out there flying, make sure.
Always be nice to your flight attendants.
Because they might have to save your butt one day.
Oh, you were a bit early there, Roxy. Goodbye, Roxy.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Thanks for listening. Don't forget to rate and review wherever you listen to podcasts. We have new episodes every Wednesday. Don't forget to follow us on social media at Moderate Turbulence on Instagram, at Mod Turbulence on Twitter, and follow us individually on Instagram at HuffyJ and at La Delvie. Thank you.